All right, and now we're going to be speaking to an actual avatar of Angela Dalton from Signum Growth Capital, and one of my favorite new friends in the metaverse and in the world of NFTs and in the world of Web3. Welcome to the Virtual Being Summit, Angela.
Thank you so much, Edward. You're one of my favorite people too, and I just smiled. The only thing that I didn't like is that I had a huge smile on my face that it didn't pick up.
Oh, there you go. We'll tell folks a little bit about Signum, and then let's talk a bit about maybe the future of the metaverse, the future of virtual beings, and what you're seeing in NFTs.
Sure. So I have a long history in traditional investment banking and research, equity research, always in the technology sector, and got into, I think I got bitten by the video game bug and when the Wii came out, which I think was like 2003 or 2004.
Yeah.
And then really got into esports when it became kind of an idea that was going to encroach on traditional media, because we started watching engagement go that direction. And then when I really started studying Bitcoin and got into the power of Bitcoin, out of nowhere, this ERC 721 standard really caught my attention. And I met William Entrican, who finalized the standard in 2018. And my view is has always been, from an investment perspective and a research perspective, that it's really interesting when we can merge onto the highway of behavior that's already happening, but with new technology enabling it that can give it firepower. And so, people have been buying, selling, trading, assets and games for many decades. And so I started to think, this is a really interesting technology because of ownership and because of the backbeat, excuse me, the backbeat of the creator, kind of the creator community that is coming to the forefront. And really this whole idea of the metaverse that Tim Sweeney started talking about in 2016.
And when you've been tracking Web3 a lot, obviously there's the beginnings of a kind of difference between a creator economy within a Web2 Roblox and a creator economy with NFTs and with decentralized metaverse worlds. How much do you think those things are radically different, and how much do you think they kind of merge into each other, or where do you see the creator economy going, the digital creator economy?
So what I'm really excited about is the idea that the intermediary won't be advertising dollars, because I think so I'm just going to give my definition of the metaverse, because I'm sure everybody has done that for you. But to me, it has to have human, and it has to have authentic. So the human multi-sensory understanding of authenticity. And what I mean by that is that in the same way that when you and I are with each other and we're talking, we have a real memory of an authentic interaction. When we're in Web 2, more and more, everyone is realizing it's not really authentic when there's an intermediary that's making money selling me advertising. And so, and also when even basic information that is being conveyed to me, it has a filter of profit between me and what the information that I'm receiving. So I think that if we can kind of take away that conflict of interest, really, and enter the Web3 world where we are peer-to-pear, and couple that with new technologies like decentralized gaming, decentralized finance, decentralized kind of normal daily activities, and then you add to that technologies like Unreal Engine that are going to bring cinematic kind of real life quality into an online environment, it gets really exciting because your understanding of and your memory of what is happening is more authentic and more real and can
Mm.
actually replace time spent offline.
It's super interesting. So you sort of, you feel it has always seemed that you have a passionate attachment to this idea of another web and a different possible relationship between technology and people, as opposed to just whatever FOMO and like, oh my god, that's incredible, NFTs are blowing up. And it's always seemed that you've got like a super earnest hope that some of the darker side of Web 2 could be redeemed by what we're seeing in Web 3, whether that's an embodied Web 3 like the metaverse, or whether that's Web 3 on 2D screens. That has seemed to be the thing that you're passionate about.
That's right. I am definitely an idealist when it comes
Mm,
to this Web3 world.
me too.
And I think, I mean, as evidenced by the fact that I've never sold any NFTs, I've only bought them. And I buy the
Mm,
ones that I think are really cool that I would want
mm,
to. I just moved to Connecticut and to the
mm.
middle of nowhere, and I'm determined to only have NFT art in my living room. But
Very good.
it doesn't, there's a mixture of well known and not known at all. But I do think that the Web3 world is an enabler, again, an enabler for action, activity,
Mm,
work.
mm,
I think it is going to
mm,
unlock economies in bigger ways. People usually think that I mean, via playing games, and I am excited about the future of gaming and the way it's changing, but I think it's different than that. I think it's much bigger in terms of unlocking economies of work
mm.
by removing barriers between people globally.
Maybe give, what are some examples? I guess obviously in the play one, we know a couple of big ones with Axie, but maybe when you talk about work, how could you see that? Are there companies or teams doing that now, or do you think that'll be unlocked in the coming years?
I think it'll be unlocked in the coming years, and I'll give a
Mm,
really basic example. I think the pandemic. We always say Zoom us into the metaverse. I am, and we have one of our analysts is in India. Our head of corporate relations and operations is in Mexico City. We're really everywhere, and Zoom really is a metaverse space because we can hear each other, see each other. I mean, how many times have you said to someone, "Wait, have we met in person or just on Zoom?" And that's the memory part that I'm talking about. So we've found new ways to work together. I mean, just
mm,
enabled by Zoom. But think about the idea that Zoom transports into a space that has the look and feel of like whatever cool office we want to make. And, we've experimented with this. We have a Signum Arc gallery, which was a collab we did with Arc Invest in Decentraland. And
mm,
it's been so much fun to interview people there, go there, hang out together. It's experimental, but that kind of future of work idea is what
mm.
I'm talking about. I think that there are going to be software tools, all sorts of new spaces that develop. And you and I have talked about DAOs. I'm really excited about this idea that an organization could be truly decentralized. There,
Mm,
of course, are, a lot of kind of practicalities that we're going to have to work out in terms of hiring a lawyer and said
mm,
there's a lot of practicalities to get us to there, but I think
mm,
it's just really cool to envision again barriers coming down and kind of cream rising to the top in terms of like-minded people. Like like you and I connecting was really
mm.
cool. I don't know, if we didn't have this shared passion of Web3, if we would have connected. And I think that when more and more people can connect in ways that bring them closer to their true passion, that's great.
Well, I mean, you brought up DAOs, and I'm also observing DAOs growing and how terrific it is. A lot of them are investment DAOs and more pooling of resources to invest. Um, but there is, or they are DAOs to help users communicate with the core team and vote on some important things, but the core team is still kind of running everything. But there's still, with Friends with Benefits and with a few other projects, it does seem as though what you're talking about of like an alternative to a company is actually starting to be possible. And yeah, I think it's extremely inspiring, and it'll need some legal handiwork to think it through, because obviously, FWB, for example, has had to figure out different legal structures in order to do this Andreessen Horowitz deal. How does a community raise money? How does a community have a singular vision? All of those things are kind of coming to the fore with a few really exciting organizations. What as we sort of go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think I'm also an optimist when it comes to regulation, surprisingly, because I do think that, instead of kind of waiting for this hammer to drop on, bad actors, I think that what we'll start to see, because, no government wants to squash or be viewed as the, squasher of innovation. And so I think that once we start to see, maybe it will be DAOs actually that, truly decentralized ownership, and where it's not the situation where, kind of the founders of all the tokens, and then, marketing, web 2 marketing tactics pump up the token, and then, they sell it. I think that is not what I am excited about. But truly having communities own the tokens, and then add value via the tokens over time through their work, I think is really interesting. And right now it's hard for the average person. Not very many people are even into crypto, much less into DAOs, but it's hard to see the difference from the outside between those two. And I think over time, when we have really positive examples, I think regulators will shine a spotlight on those positive examples. And then we could see, activity move in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. We've talked about regulation before, and it has seemed that your point of view has been that that a lot of the regulators are earnest, and obviously they have different points of view across the spectrum, but that largely you see a fairly earnest approach to trying to figure out how to manage this.
Yep, I definitely see that. I feel like there's I think people underestimate the fact that there's not a lot of resource in most of these regulators. And so the idea that they could be, plotting and planning against all of these various, thousands and thousands of entities, I think is probably unrealistic. But I also think that definitely there's a lot of learning that has to happen still. But I do think that ultimately they're looking for positive cases, not negative ones.
Well, okay. The last area I wanted to touch on was just your thoughts on play to earn, because I know that you're a big thinker around gaming, and I don't know how much that trend caught you by surprise 6 months ago or a year ago, whenever you first heard about it, or if it seemed like just an evolution, or like how you've kind of thought about play to earn in the last little while.
Yeah, so I am I'm really excited about it. We have a mantra, which is developers to the front of the line, creators to the front of the line, kind of this transparency in the value chain, especially in gaming. And so you and I have talked about Mythical and Blankos. You were an investor in Mythical, and Blankos
Mm,
is as a world is really really interesting because anybody can get in there, kind of like in Roblox, and create their own game, bring in their own characters, buy, sell, trade their own assets, and I think that this idea that gamers or that developers can be players and run their own kind of you know enterprises and
mm,
actually make money along the way through programmable royalties, I think
mm,
is really really exciting. And and I also feel like there's a kind of a center of gravity that is forming in the gaming world.
mm,
And it really, I've always seen gaming and crypto as a very symbiotic idea, because this center of gravity in terms of identity and status used to be your house, because you couldn't, you only, the radius of your identity and status was really your home. You could drive out of your driveway, you could, wear your clothes, you could, you know, be in your car, you could go on vacation. Um, and then once the iPhone came about, we could use that as our center of gravity in terms of identity and status. And you could go to Machu Picchu and take selfies, and you could rent the runway and take more selfies, and your identity and status was still dependent on the physical, but in a digital space. And as we move to Web3 and the metaverse, it's digital at that point. And so all of this time spent, which really starts in game with people playing, because that's the only that I'm a big believer that people don't engage unless they want to. And so, these spaces have to be fun. And so, as we start to engage and spend more time, all of those things around us that are status, identity, ownership, they'll all need to have provable ownership and provenance. And so that's the play to earn, I think, is bigger than just
mm,
the idea of kind of grinding in a game to make money. Even though I think,
mm,
that's innovative and exciting as well.
mm. Well, thank you so much for taking time with us, Angela, and with a uh, very cool avatar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edward.